And welcome everyone to Customizing Your Pricing. I am so delighted to be here this morning with Heather Townsend. Heather was giving me just like a light little bit of mom therapy right before this, and I couldn't have been more grateful to have another human in my circle who's running the kind of company she is, in this odd new world we're operating in. For anyone who watches this after the fact, this was recorded in April of 2020, and we're still in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. And I had such an amazing conversation with you, Heather, the other week when we were preparing for this session, because we were really thinking about how do we make sure that what we have to offer is relevant in this moment, because you and I both have engaged with just so many people who have kind of plowed ahead with their traditional marketing plan and just appeared so tone deaf in the process. And so I'm just so excited because the conversation we had and the insights you have to share today about really, honestly, not just pricing, but how do we price in this really unusual time, I think are so relevant, because a lot of our members have felt hesitant to sell anything, let alone to, make modifications to the ways that they're pricing. And the result that I worry will happen is a true undervaluing when, our members have been heroes in this moment. They've been jumping in and helping clients left, right, and center. And we want to make sure that they're owning that value and capitalizing on it. So thank you so much, Heather, for being here. And if you're in the chat room, feel free to chime in and tell us, where you're signing on from and what you're excited to learn about today. I would love to hear from that. But Heather, go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to start a little bit because you mentioned to me that, Madeline, we've got a lot of service-based professionals, not necessarily accountants. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there that I normally talk only to accountants, but I also, on the other side of my world, talk to people in the mid to tier firms that are lawyers or consultants. And I'm also a service-based business. So to put it into perspective, we're about a $400,000 turnover.
Yeah.
So, we're not massive, but we're not, it's me in a study.
Yeah.
Although at the moment it is me in a study because we're a remote business.
It's me in a guest room. This is our real world business.
So before we kind of get into the introductions to it, I want to leave people with a thought right up now. Is that when we go into times of turbulence, when we go into times of forced on change, we reach out to people that we trust. That either means we reach out to our existing advisors, or if those people have vacated the space because they haven't moved quickly, we move out to people with known centre of expertise. And actually at the moment, the worst thing you could do is go out there and sell. As you put on your tweet, I am tired of white middle-aged men telling me on LinkedIn how they can help me. I think I'm lucky they don't do that to me. But I think there's never been a better time to be in business development as an expert, because actually if you go in there with a full direct sell, it's not going to work. So I just wanted to leave that with people. At the moment, being helpful, leading your clients, leading people get in touch with you, and that's pricing as much as anything else, is the best thing you can do. So I think I need to just kind of introduce myself a bit, don't I?
Yeah, let's do that.
But I wanted to
learn about me.
We don't need to know about
who I am.
don't need to know about me. So yeah, I was one of those people that fell out of corporate life 11 years ago when the last recession hit. I'm somebody that actually learned how to market my business without going out and meeting people. Not because I'm a hermit, although I am one of those, not because I'm a hermit, because actually at the time I had kids that were under 3, there was no money for childcare, there was no money for train fare. And actually I was 10 years ahead of my time, being my predominant route to market has always been content marketing. It's always been social media. So I just wanted to put that out there at the moment, just to let you know that I'm grappling with the same issues that you are, the same challenges. And yes, we have a subscription-based service to our Accountants Millionaires Club members. We've got 2 US members. We're now up to 43. I know it's small numbers, but
it's exciting. No, it's super exciting, and just knowing what it takes to grow, a community and true community is it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about being in Learning Lab at the moment, is you've got a true community around you. And I wanted to put that out and say, at the moment with the Accountants Millionaires Club, we're winning a new member a week since it started. You know, we had 2-3 weeks where we thought, you know, we might as well just stick a knife in our chest. It's going to be a quicker way of destroying the business than what's going on around us. You know, I'm all for instant action, you might have guessed. But so I wanted to put it out there that there are ways of winning business. There are ways of valuing yourself. This is about you going in with the right mindset.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about today is a lot of what we've already started talking about is mindset. It's about how your head thinks, what's going on there. So we're going to talk first and foremost about why pricing is hard. We're going to then look at pricing in the brain. And actually, you know, when you and I were like, oh, Heather, can you do this? It was like, okay, we've got American CPAs, we've got American bookkeepers, we've got American unlicensed accountants type stuff. We've got everything like that. And I know that we in the UK have moved to fixed fee pricing. So for those of you that are not what we would call a typical accountant or a bookkeeper, bear with me for that one. And then we're going to look at how do you add that value in the sales process. So I'd love for you just to jump on the chat box, tell me where you are in the world, tell me what time it is. And I'm British. You probably guessed that. You know, the accent I'm told is cute. But I'm British.
I did think of you this morning because I was like, should I have coffee? And I was like, no, I'm doing a webinar with Heather. I have to have a cup of tea.
Yes, you have to have a cup of tea. So do jump on the chat box. Tell me where you are in the world, what time it is, because it's 5 o'clock now. So this is my third webinar of the day. Tell me what time it is and also what you want to get out of this session. And because I'm British, I'm telling you now, it's raining and it's rained all day and it's suddenly got cold. So yeah, I'm just, you know, the heating's gone on. So jump into the chat box. Look, I need to hear what you want at it so that I can tailor. So Michelle wants to get better at pricing and you're in New York City, and it's about midday. That'll be right. Madeline, you're pretty windy, aren't you? Because you're Seattle, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been windy. We're having nicer weather, which has been great, but it's a bit of a you're hesitant whenever the weather's this nice. It's not gonna last long.
Yes, so Gina wants to have courage. And you know what? Courage starts by believing in yourself. And actually, everything I say, if you don't value yourself first, it won't make a blind bit of difference. So Sheila wants to have some insight on how to create and express the value in our value-based pricing. Absolutely, you can do that. Gina's told me she wants courage. Monique, lovely to hear from you in Boston. It's one of the places in the US that I haven't visited yet that I'd love to go and see. What about Sean? What about Alexa? You know, what are you wanting? The more that I can tailor this session to you, the more valuable it'll be. Absolutely, Alexa. You know, I'll talk about some of that fact. I've been to San Francisco and I experienced that. Hey, it's warm and sunny. No, it's suddenly we're in cloud. I've experienced that real San Francisco awesome kind of bit. So yeah, how do we adapt to downward pricing pressure? Absolutely, yeah, we'll do that. No fog today. I'm in the wrong place. I need to see that bridge today.
Let's see. And we saw one from Sheila too. She said that, you know, she'd like to really how to express that value, which I think is the hardest thing, because I think, you know, our members understand what they do is valuable. And I think even more so in this moment, right, Heather, because they're just showing up in such huge ways for their clients. But how do they communicate that to clients is such a big one.
Awesome. Absolutely. So let's start. And Sean would like best practices, and once again, in expressing the value and how to represent the price and value to clients. Absolutely. So let's kind of start. And I've just seen that George has arrived, which is brilliant. So why is pricing so hard? So if you look up at the top left, does it feel like that right now? And particularly the ones that are on the accountancy side of it, you've got every single client that you have, plus a few you probably didn't know you have, ringing you up with, I don't know how many questions, all in a panic state. You know, you can't get away with a 5-minute phone call at the moment. Just go in the chat box. Does it feel like that? Like you're running through sand with a massive pack on your back and you can't see the end in sight at the moment? Just put in the chat box. Does that feel like it at the moment?
Yeah, I know for me, it's like this feeling of, you know, the to-do list is never done.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. I can't plan more than 2 weeks ahead. It's a killer.
Yeah.
Absolute killer. So Sheila's saying yes. Alexa's saying absolutely feels that way. Others talk about how much time they have now. I know.
That makes it crazy.
I know. I looked at my diary and said, oh, I've got nothing to do after this bit. I should be able to just chill and get ahead. And somebody lied. That's so unfair, isn't it? You know, what happened there? So, yeah, it's just unhelpful to do that sort of stuff. You know, and that's the reality is we've got all of this fear in our head. And when you're running, when you're dealing with fear, it makes it a lot harder. And yeah, Georgia, it's that constant hustle. You know, I'm a business owner that started their business in the last recession. You know, Monique, yeah, what extra time? Yeah, I'll adopt that phrase. I'm slammed. You know, I'm a Brit, so I don't quite know that phrase, but I hear you, and I think I'm there with you. And this is why pricing is so hard now, is it plays with your head. You know, on the one hand, you want to express your value. At the one hand, you want to kind of say, this is how it is. On the other hand, you're like, but people need help. And I'm really good at helping. And that's why I came and did what I did. And they need help, but they say they can't afford it. What's the right thing to do? There's the other thing of there's this so-called downward pressure. If I don't win this client, will I never win another one? You know, it plays up there, doesn't it? It absolutely plays up there. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the accountancy profession or the general service profession, there is no such thing as a right price or a magic formula or an industry standard. And that's the reality. This is the absolute reality. And actually, when you want to think about your pricing, when you want to be in a good place about your pricing, you've got to be confident at the moment. You've got to feel good about things at the moment. You've got to have time to think about things at the moment. The three things that we don't have at the moment, isn't it? That's the real issue. You know, Monique said I'm slammed. Georgia talked about the constant hustle. Alexa said it absolutely feels that way. Sheila said, yeah, it is. And, you know, and all of this is playing with your head at the moment, which makes it even harder to be able to step outside of it and go, that is the right price. You know, and this is a real question, you know, is it morally right to charge your clients when they're desperate? You know, this is what we're up against, isn't it? You know, some of our members, some of my clients have had people saying, it's not right to charge us right now. I'm going out of business. You can't do this. Whoa. You know, and we're not quite in the UK as sort of hustle as the US is, but the reality is you're not a charity. You know, you can't walk into Walmart and say, oh, can you do the right thing for me and not charge me for this groceries for the week? Because it's hard right now. You've got to pay your team. You've got to put food on the table, which means that sometimes doing the right thing is not necessarily doing the free thing. You know, and I'm going to repeat that. Doing the right thing is not necessarily doing the free thing. And actually, you know, we look at it, and when we've given away stuff for free, people don't value it. You know, when we've given extra bits of our service away for free because it's the right thing to do, people don't value it. And actually, sometimes people have to have skin in the game, which is a very British saying. Is that an American saying?
Yeah, we say it. You hear it a lot in sports.
Yeah. I've got to be really careful that sometimes the British stuff doesn't translate. You know, we talk about pavements, not sidewalks. You know, we talk about crossing the road rather than jaywalking when we cross without a light, and that's not illegal where we are. So, you know, there is an element I've got to make sure that I'm removing my metaphors. And actually, one of the things that we've got to realize is that we know some of our clients are going to bounce back. So some of the answers might be payment holidays. Some of the answers might be a success fee if you could help them gain access to finance. For some of those that are saying, how do I express my value? You've got to look at, and we're going to come on to that, what does value mean for them? It's not about what does value mean for us. And actually, your clients won't value you until you value yourself. And I know that's right up there in top woohoo territory, isn't it? You know, I could be a life coach saying that, couldn't I? You know, motivational speaker, your clients won't value you until you value yourself. But sadly, it's really true. You know, if you don't value your firm's services, if you're not prepared to say, actually, these are worthwhile paying for it, then you are going to be going into this downward spiral. Yeah. Now, I don't mean be as stupid as my personal trainer who sent me an email and said, by the way, prices are going up this month. Yeah. He's now my former personal trainer.
What was the justification for that, out of curiosity?
It's the annual increase. Sadly, this guy is in denial about what's happening.
Oof.
Yeah. yeah, he's struggling, is in a lot of denial. And actually, so there are ways that you can value your firm's services and still be innovative. Now, this is a very accountancy example, so bear with me. If you've got clients that you do management accounts, how about switch them to cash flow forecasting? If you've got bookkeeping clients, how about do some very basic cash flow forecasting, such as you got this much money, it's going to last you this much time on your run rate. That's 3 calculations.
Yeah.
Even I, as a non-accountant, can do that.
Yeah.
And remember, you can still do the right thing, but also get paid for it. But actually, the big thing to learn right now is, now more than ever, you have to lead your client right now. What do they need? Why do they need it? What's the reality if they don't take it? And actually, what is the value for them of taking it?
Mm-hmm.
And this sounds strange, but with this massive amount of change crashing around us right now, everybody's got very similar needs. Everybody's got very, very similar needs. And so actually, it sounds stupid, but there's never been an easier time to value what we're generating to our clients. Because if there isn't any value, people won't pay for it now.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. So I just want to now talk a little bit about pricing and the brain, because a lot of this is all up in here. So just put in the chat. We've got the hand symbol, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got it. Yeah.
We've got the hand symbol. Just put the hand symbol up. If you've got a little voice in your head, and let me guess that little voice in your head, just put your hand symbol up as well. If it's never nice to you. Yeah, it's never nice, is it? Put your hand up. Is that, do you have that little voice in your head? Yeah, Monique has it. Absolutely. And it never says, Heather, you're having an awesome day today, does it? It never says that. It normally says, oh, this is going to happen. Oh, you're getting too big for your boots. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, if you do that, you won't have a business. It's never nice to us. It is never, never nice to us. And actually, the small voice in your head actually becomes as a net result of our primary survival mechanism. So there's a small part of the brain called the amygdala. And I can give you a lot of stuff about it, but at a very simple level, that's the bit that's triggered whenever it thinks you're in danger, and it's the fight-flight response. Starts to pour a whole lot of hormones in your body, one of which is cortisol, one of which is adrenaline, one of which is noradrenaline. I will not be testing you later on this. But the key thing about this is that they raise your heart rate, they get you ready to fight the saber-toothed tiger or run away from it. Now, your brain associates fear, uncertainty, and doubt as unsafe. So let's repeat that: fear, uncertainty, and doubt as unsafe. So what does that really mean, that fear, uncertainty, doubt as unsafe? It means anytime you go out of your comfort zone, the amygdala goes, woo! It starts, pouring the chemicals in your body. It starts raising the blood pressure. And actually, one of the things is the little voice in your head is actually your amygdala trying to keep you safe.
Mm.
It doesn't want you in a hit, and it always goes to the worst case scenario. That is why our species has survived for millions and millions of years. Just put it in the chat box. What are some of the things that your little voice says in those, just at that point when you need to say price to your client? What does that little voice say in your head? We've already had some people going, there's downward pressure. How do I justify this?
Yeah.
Just put in the chat box. Gives me a chance to have a swig of, guess what? Tea.
I'll share mine while we're waiting for folks to chime in. Because I was sharing with Heather yesterday, I was thinking about reaching out to a couple of clients, and my voice always encourages me to go lower. And it's something that I've struggled with a lot. And the only way that I've overcome it is by talking to other folks and realizing what they're charging for the same services. And so anytime I hear that voice, I combat it by saying, well, that somebody else is, charging X for it. So,
Yeah.
Good feedback here now.
Yeah, brilliant. So Sheila said, justification of our prices. Will have someone underpriced us? The answer is someone will always underprice you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can accept that and realize that they've done studies time and time and time again. And for service-based professionals like ourselves, the big thing that people don't want to do is get ripped off. They don't want to pay money and it go wrong. That is the big thing. Remember, for most people, when they come to us, we're the equivalent of the brain surgeon who is about to do surgery on their nearest and dearest. There's always financial risk. There's always reputational risk. Actually, yes, price does come into it, but it's not as high as we think it is. Yeah, absolutely, Sean, they won't pay it. I've heard that so often. Oh, you're going to go in too high. Why even give that option? And it's go lower instead of providing options and cost benefits with each. Yeah, and some of that's about our sales technique, Sean, and I'm going to take you through some of that. You know, and George, it's true, isn't it? You know, it's the sort of person I'd normally associate as an accountant, really good at analysing things, really good at kind of thinking through things, really poor at going to take a decision. And we always worry, oh, if I quote this, I'm going to go wrong. I'm going to go too low, too high. So let's go and find out more about what's going on. And then before you know it, we never quite get there. And I wanted to talk you through a bit about price versus value. And yes, this is the first time you have come on a professional learning session and there's toilet rolls. It's this crazy Brit, you know. So I just want you to get your pen out. I just want you to write down in front of you. This isn't a trick test. I want you to just write down 4 prices. So imagine there's a 9-pack of toilet roll. There's a 9-pack of toilet roll. How much would you have paid for it in January? Before this panic buying started? How much would you have paid for it in January? Just go with what your gut tells you. Nobody's going to ask you what it is at the moment. Nobody's going to know that you bought the value price stuff. The stuff that is more akin to sandpaper. Nobody's going to know that you bought the really expensive stuff because you have sensitive parts. Nobody's going to know that. So right now, second scenario. You got those 9 toilet rolls in front of you. Now, if you knew that this was an ethically sourced roll of bamboo toilet tissue, that you're going to be saving the world, the world's environment, this stuff is probably the most environmentally friendly toilet tissue you can buy. How much would you pay for it now? Just write that down. Now, imagine the coronavirus panic buying has hit. And you only have 2 toilet rolls left in the house. I know. And if you've got children, they know that they're the last 2 in the house. How much would you now pay for those 9-pack of toilet rolls? Don't overthink it. Go with what's in your head. Go with what your gut tells you. What's popping into your mind. Now imagine the 4th scenario. So you should have got 3 prices. Now imagine the 4th scenario. You could see the panic buying happening. You've only got 2 toilet rolls in the house. But you know that whatever that actually you're guaranteed to buy this pack of 9 toilet rolls as long as you put the right price. What would you pay if you knew that you would get the 9-pack of toilet rolls? You know, what I want you to do is just tell me the difference between the first price and the last price. What have you put, Madeline? I can't really see very well.
We went from $6 all the way to $36.
So you would have paid $30 more dollars.
Yeah.
What would everybody else have put? What's the difference between your first and your last price?
It was funny, because even as you were talking, Heather, I could feel it. I could feel the anxiety rising.
It's like, no toilet roll, and I've got kids in the house.
As soon as you said children, I was like, they don't know how to use it wisely.
Yeah. What? Can I teach them how to use one sheet only? So interestingly, George, $40 extra was the difference between the 2 prices. Sean, it was $20 extra. The little neighborhood store that Alexa had imported from Japan, and she paid $16.50 for 9 rolls, and she bought it without even looking at the price. Kind of says something, doesn't it? It says, I'll buy it at any price. Sheila's got a $32 difference. And I think there's something here we can learn from this scenario. Those 9 toilet rolls were still the same 9 toilet rolls, weren't they? They haven't changed. They are still 9 toilet rolls. However, the buyer, not the seller, determines the value. And the value is very dependent on context. For George, that was a $40 difference. That's a potentially 500-600% markup on what was still the same 9 toilet rolls. And those scenarios were such that the value increased every single time. But the more value for the buyer, the higher the price they're prepared to pay.
Yeah.
Now, for some of you, the whole thing about being ethically bamboo, whatever, probably didn't make a difference. And actually, very often, you probably, if you only had 2 toilet rolls left in the house, you probably wouldn't care how long it takes to make, how bad it was for the environment. You just need a toilet roll. So we have to remember that when we're talking to our clients about this kind of stuff, they don't care how long it takes us to do this stuff. They don't care how many people we have to involve. They just want the end result. Mm-hmm. They're not interested in the bit in the middle. It's, can you deliver? And this is the really important thing, particularly for those that you're like, how do I justify my price? You can only justify your price when you really understand what is the value for them. So I hope that makes sense to people. And actually, let's look at the buying journey. Every single client that you will have will go through these 5 stages. They'll start with everything's fine in my world. So let's look at this with toilet rolls. January, if I said to you, you better stock up in toilet rolls, there might be let's take it January 2019. If I said to you, you better stock up in toilet rolls, there might be a pandemic. You would basically say, I think you need to see you shrink, wouldn't you? You're like, everything's fine. Well, I could say, look, odds on we're about to have a global pandemic. People are talking about it. You go, yeah, right. You're just a crazy Brit. Go away. But actually, let's kind of think what happens. And suddenly we move out of everything fine and we have a bit of a problem. Something's not quite right. Something's maybe not where it needs to be. And at that point, we start to research. So I think if we'd realised that in China they'd panic bought toilet rolls, in January when we heard they went into lockdown, we might have actually started to think, do I need to buy toilet rolls? But at this stage, we start to research. And at this point, we really want to know, can I ignore this? Because we're human beings, we've got so much on our plate normally. We think, can I ignore this? And that's what we're really looking to answer, can I ignore this? Then at some point, we realise, right, I've done enough research. And I know the outcome I want. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know the outcome I want. And at this point, we get very, very rational. What are the steps I need to take? How do I need to take that steps? Give me a ballpark figure of the typical budget. I don't need the final budget, but give me a ballpark figure. And the sooner you can at least get them into a ballpark figure for your services, whether that's on your website, with clients normally spend between this and this with us, the easier the conversation about price will be. Because if you let them lead the conversation on price, they're going to go low. Because we're human beings. Oh, I know it should cost me like $4,000, but in my head it was $200. We have to lead that conversation. Once we get from the I know the outcome I want, we then actually start to speak to suppliers, choose the solutions. At that point, we're looking at what's the credibility, what's the budget, are you the right fit for me? And then we'll take the decision to buy and we'll start to close it. So actually, we need to know that. And our brain, this is, if anybody's read Thinking Fast and Slow, this is the work by Daniel Kahneman that he got I nearly said Nobel Peace Prize, but he got a Nobel Prize for it. It wasn't peace, it was to do with economics. And he basically decoded a lot of neuroscience into a very, very simple way of thinking about it. The brain has 2 modes of thinking. The brain also is the most energy hungry part of your body. It takes over 20% of the glucose in your blood, and it takes over 20% of the available oxygen in your blood. So your brain is always wanting to go to the easiest way to do it. So it wants to go to system 1. That is, if I said to you 2 plus 2, all of you have gone 4, haven't you? It's ping, it's fast, it's almost automatic. And that's an example of system 1. And our brain uses habits, shortcuts, biases, but it decides that it wants a quick answer. It doesn't necessarily want a correct answer. And typically when we go into pricing, you want to make it so easy that your clients only really need to use system 1 to go, yeah, of course I'll buy that. Now, system 2 is the same thinking, that if I said to you, what's 17 times 33, you now cannot listen to me and compute that, can you, Madeline? You're trying really, really hard and you can't do it, can you? That is because system 2 takes your prefrontal cortex. It is far more accurate, but it's really, really heavy on energy. It's slow. You mean you still haven't got it yet, Madeline? Call yourself an expert. Can't believe it.
Writing down, I'm like, let's do basic math. I've expended all my prefrontal cortex pretending I'm a math teacher to my 8-year-old.
Yeah, and I know we're joking about it, but actually that is very true. We have a finite amount of decisions we can take in a day. So if you're trying to take decisions about pricing when you're tired, when you're knackered, when you're scared, you're never going to take the right decision. And your brain is always going to want to go for the easy option, which is, this is too hard, I'll do it later. You know, we all have that too hard box. And when we're tired, that too hard box is a lot bigger and it's a lot easier to put things in it. And so this system 2, of course, it's more accurate, but it's slow. It requires a lot of brain energy and it can't multitask. Now, in the pricing thing, we want to get it so the buyers, remember, they're the ones that determine the value, are trying to slip into system 1 with what we do. So what are some of the common biases in pricing? So anchoring is very simple. Your brain cannot make any meaning out of a number. If I say to it 42, it cannot make a meaning out of that number. So it actually uses something called anchoring to make meaning out of that number. Now, the thing is, you could put a random number in their head and the brain subconsciously starts anchoring what it thinks about towards that number. So there's a research study where they had a bottle of champagne and they asked people to pick a ball from the bottle of champagne, and unbeknownst to the people, there were two things. There was a low price and a high price. There was a low number and a high number, and it was the same number, a low number like 3 and a high number like 178. They found that there was a disproportionate amount of people that was prepared to spend more on this bottle of champagne when they picked out a high number just before they were asked, how much would you spend on this bottle of champagne? So that number was completely random. It had no relevance to the bottle of champagne. So a completely random number. So what does that mean for you? That means if you're not prepared to give potential clients an idea of your fees. Now, we're not talking about a full rate card. We're talking about most of our clients typically spend between X and Y with us. Or this is the first normal service that our clients take from us. Typically, they spend between this and this. You know, it could be a really large range. You know, we're not talking $2 to $2 million range. You know, we're talking, you know, your audience. So the first thing to do is make sure that in the conversation with the client, people realize they can see that anchor. If you don't start that conversation about the price before they come and talk to you, somebody else will have started to put the thing in their brain. It's as simple as that. You know, if I tell you that I was before COVID hit, I was about to move to a £3,000, which is about $4,500, isn't it? A day kind of charge out rate. You know, suddenly this session feels a lot more valuable, doesn't it? If I said that, well, actually, I'd turn up for more like £750 a day, it's about $1,000, doesn't feel as valuable. Same person, same thing I'm talking about. Affection bias is about when you like someone, you want to like the whole thing about them. So if you like someone, you're more likely to accept the price from them. This is why we work hard to build a relationship. There's many other reasons why we work hard to build the trust in the relationship. Mental accounting is where people tend to budget in a period that works for them. So most people get paid monthly, or the wages go out monthly. And so they've got a budget of monthly. And so if you say it's $6,000 for the year, they're going to go, whoa, it's so much. Whereas actually, if you say it's $500 a month, if I get my maths right, it's still the same price. But actually, it's more in there, well, how much have I got? Where does that look? And that's one of the shortcuts we use. So a quick thing is to understand, what are they expecting to pay? Quote it in that, look, if you're going to pay monthly, it's this amount. You know, you've already budgeted this. It's within budget. Yeah. So automation bias is where people trust a computer. They are more likely to trust a computer than they are a human being. Makes you feel good, doesn't it, Madeline?
Makes me feel terrible. I'm like, who hurt them?
Exactly. But that is what our brain is. We think computers, they're not fickle, they can only say the price. Which is why the whole pricing tools and I'll just put it in the spreadsheet to see what you need, and this is what it came out, works so well. But actually, it's far more than this. It is about self-confidence as well. You know, that's me on a mountain bike, Madeline.
Yeah, in all your spare time.
Yeah, that I don't have. But actually, sorry, I've missed this. Like, you know, it's very simple. When you're more confident, you price higher. You value your services more, you're less likely to discount. And you take quicker decisions. But let's be honest, right now, confidence is like that. And you know, our confidence is decimated. So the more you can do to build your confidence, the more you can work with others to find out what they're pricing, the easier it is to resist that, hey, there's downward pressure at the moment because of the recession. You know, with these things, be nice to yourself, play to your strengths, give yourself some time out. How far have we come with this stuff? Be kind to yourself, eliminate people who get you down. You know, and the other thing is, if you're sitting there with a forecast that is still the same forecast you had before this whole coronavirus crisis hit, reset your forecast. You know, it really doesn't do your self-esteem any good if you're looking at it and going, oh, but I was flying high, I could have done this, and it just doesn't work. Reset your expectations. So how do we move to fixed fee pricing? And right, there's a lot of stuff, particularly in the accountancy industry, where the move to fixed fee has been labelled as value pricing. I'll use a very British phrase, that's codswallop. In other words, that's trash.
Yeah.
Did you like my American there? Trash, not rubbish.
Yeah.
No, I'm winning. Get me?
Not garbage.
Exact garbage, that's it. Trash can garbage. Yeah, it is late. Typically, right, there are 3 core methodologies of pricing. There's cost plus margin, which is where it costs me to deliver this, then I want to make that margin. Most of fixed fee pricing is cost plus margin. I'm just building a bigger margin on my cost. Reactive pricing is where I go, oh, my competitor charges that amount, I'll charge this amount. Or, oh, I think you can pay a bit more, I'll charge that amount. And then value pricing is where you literally generate a price based on the value you bring. It is the hardest one to actually do. And with value pricing, you have to accept that the amount that you will charge will go up or down based on the success you achieve. So tax professionals do this really, really well. I will give you a share of the savings. You'll give me a share of the savings. People getting access to finance, helping raise funds, normally do a value pricing share of savings. And we have to realize that cost plus margin is a really easy way to price because it's very simple. This is my cost, this is my margin. But we never normally adjust our top line cost, our top line price when our costs change, which is the real mistake. And also when you move to fixed fee, which is cost plus margin, what we then forget is that actually we now have to focus on the efficiency of our firm, which we never really used to do when we were timesheets and we sold by time. Mm-hmm. Reactive pricing is great if it's just you, but if you want to grow, your people have to be able to price. And you've got to kind of let them know, well, my intuition says you can pay more. You know, it's a lot easier. Cost plus margin is a lot easier because it's a standard rate card. You can use, you know, a spreadsheet. Reactive pricing can lead to some rather nice super profits. There is also a question with reactive pricing about whether you're profiteering. I'll leave that one there. I mean, value pricing, it's really difficult to do well. As I've said, it's really difficult to do well. You know, and some of that is self-esteem. It's like, I know I'm good. That's why you pay this amount. And someone says, well, how do you value yourself? It's like, well, I'm going to save you this time. You know, we get to the point a lot quicker. Now let's look about moving into fixed fees. What's in it for you? Now I'm really aware, particularly with the American CPAs, the American bookkeepers, stroke accountants that we work with, that the money that comes in is very lumpy, isn't it? You get the tax tranche 1, you get the tax tranche 2, and then you might pick up some odds and ends in the year. You might get an enlightened client that realizes you can't leave it all until December to get everything up to date. That's if you're lucky. And actually the great thing about fixed fees is you can take this one big cost and spread it over the year. It also means that you get some money coming over the year and it smooths out the lumpy cash flow. You know, moving as well to, it's ACH, isn't it called? Here in the UK, we call it direct debit. It means that it's a lot quicker to process the payment and you know it's coming in, pretty much so. The other thing is when you spread those costs. Now, don't do what some of our clients did with like, okay, so we'll start asking for payment right at the end of the year when we have finished doing all the work, and we'll spread that across 12 months. That's not right. Now, you spread it at the beginning of the financial year so that you get, hopefully by the time you do the majority of the work, you've been paid, and you reduce your WIP and your likelihood of bad debt. And actually, when you reduce to that, you then start a different relationship. You start a relationship so that's, well, you're calling me, the time's not, the time's not on there. So part of my fixed fee has got to put in a level of client service in there. That's where a lot of people in the UK went wrong. They're like, well, it's this much for a set of accounts, it's this much for a tax return, it's this much for my sales tax return, it's this. And then they said, oh, we'll give you free telephone and email support, because that's nice, isn't it? And then that's been killing them.
No boundaries.
No boundaries. Because the other thing is, once clients pay monthly, they expect to be able to ring you up monthly because that's part of what they're paying for. There's a psychological change. The great news is that actually it allows you to get closer. It allows you to get into the more interesting stuff. The challenge is, unless you budgeted in that, it's difficult. Now, there are a lot of tools out there that help you with this stuff. We love tools like Practice Ignition. A lot of the ACH tools make it really easy to do the whole reconciliation. Sorry for the non-accountants, I'm getting a bit geeky here. And actually, when you get paid a little bit every month, particularly with where we're up now, you're more chance of getting paid and less chance of bad debts from clients. But always, when I've spoken to accountants before about this, or bookkeepers, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. This is how you talk about it to your clients. You ask them about what's in it for them. You say, look, this gives certainty over your monthly bills. You know what you're going to pay every month. It means you can budget. It also means that you're not paying for my inefficiencies. It's wrong for you to be paying for my inefficiencies. Now, if you're paying me a fixed fee, as long as I get the fee right, it means I've got time to properly think about your business. I stop becoming a bean counter and all that stuff. And actually, it helps you preserve your cash flow. So if you explain it with the benefits to them, they'll kind of go, I want it now.
Yeah.
I don't like this old method.
And I think the big thing too, having made the shift, in my business, I hardly, every once in a blue moon, I'll start a conversation with somebody where I'll throw out an hourly rate, but I don't really ever end up doing anything hourly anymore. And the reason being is because of that piece you described of all the in between, because I can never charge a client for the hour that, you're in the shower and you're thinking, oh, I wonder how that person's doing. And, if they've thought about doing XYZ, and I'm going to just send a quick email or a quick note. And I was even, working on something for a consulting client that we've got a retainer with this morning. And there's no way, I do time tracking just to be able to see where the inefficiencies are, or where I'm spending too much time in my business. But, I'm just firing off, these emails here and there to keep projects rolling. And it would be inefficient for me to stop and say, okay, 5 minutes of emails for this client and 5 minutes of emails for this client and 5 minutes of emails for this client. But at the same token, that's exactly where you start to feel that frustration in the client relationship, is when there is a client that is more demanding and you haven't budgeted that in. That's the first client that you start to loathe. And so I think that it's so critical to think about, some people see charging more as a barrier to bringing the client close, but I actually find that the clients that I've really, really priced appropriately in this way, they and I have the best relationships. We both feel like we can be accessible to each other.